Here we go. Hi, welcome to Carrie Eddins from Return on Connection to our In Conversation With this morning. So, Carrie, we've had some technical difficulties these last couple of weeks, but it is so lovely to see you and hear you, and you can see me and hear me, and that's a fantastic start for a Monday morning. So, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it is. It's a huge difference.
It is. So I'm Tracey-Jane Hughes from Manage Those Things and the Business Cheerleading Club, and we're running these series of conversations with experts and business owners to learn some tips for business. So Carrie has very kindly come along to talk to us a little bit about PR. Now, Carrie, just before we start, just give us a little bit about, what it is that you do.
Sure. So what I do is I work with my clients to help them be seen and heard on a bigger level, because in essence, PR is, it just helps you it supercharges your visibility.
Okay.
So that's what I do through the media, essentially. And usually before we get to that place, I help them get really clear on their message and their story and how to emotionally connect with their audience as well.
Okay, so it's about message and story, and then getting that out to a broader audience through the media.
Yeah, because PR gets you heard and seen like nothing else.
Okay, so just give us an example of some of the work that you've done, Carrie. I know
Yes,
you've had some.
Yes, of course. So recently, I think over the last, I think on Saturday, I got a lady, Sally Baker, in the Metro, talking about the positives, because there's been a lot of, the article's quite controversial because talking about the positives of social media. Somebody had mental health issues and they used social media as a way of communicating with people.
Yeah.
For example, I had Louise Cartwright in The Sun a few weeks ago. Talking about how her relationship, how she recouped her relationship. What else? There's so many. My brain is.
I know. I'm sorry, that's putting you on the spot, Carrie. But
that's all right.
It's just giving people a flavour as to what you do. So you work with clients and you help them. You sort of work with the journalist, don't you?
Yeah. And another one I can think of, there's a lady, one of my clients, being interviewed tomorrow for the Daily Mail. I mean, there's just lots of, and for those of you who don't know, the Daily Mail is the most read paper in the country. So it's like, it's got and the Daily Mail is like a feeder newspaper, and the stories typically break in there, or if stories have broken, they suddenly go on in the Daily Mail. So it's a very, even if people have a love-hate relationship with the Daily Mail, it's a very important newspaper. Like it or not, you don't have to stay there or buy it every day, but there's a lot, things happen from and with it. So it's kind of really important.
So a lot of people, a lot of business owners, don't really understand what PR is. And I know you've just sort of explained some of the outcomes that you've given to people. So why PR and not marketing?
Why I do it, or just why generally people would benefit from?
Why can people? Why can business owners? Why do they need to think about PR? As well as marketing, because I think some people think, I'm doing my marketing and that's all I need to do. So
I see what you mean. Yeah. Well, for me, like, obviously marketing is vitally important. You need to, like Sarah Arrow says, you need to blog every day and, repurpose your content wherever they're hanging out on social media, be it, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever it is, Pinterest. But to work, so you need to do it outside of marketing. PR is a form of marketing, but it's a different form of marketing in that you can't control the content. So, you can't control what a journalist writes about you, can't control when you're going to be featured, if you're going to be featured. You can't control whether you do a radio interview, if all the content is going to be aired or not. Often they cut parts, the same with television.
Yeah.
The purpose and point and beauty of PR is that it's literally helping you be seen and heard like nothing else. It's incomparable to anything else. It builds your level of influence and authority in a way that social media and marketing simply doesn't.
Yeah. So in terms of business owners, you know, how do they do this PR? Do they need to work with somebody like you, or are there things that they can do themselves to help them be seen and heard more broadly?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like with anything, as you know, it takes time and energy, and the shortcut route to any kind of success with anything is to work with someone, of course it is, who's already doing it, whose level of, you know, zone of genius, level of expertise. That, of course, that supercharges your success. Although I always say, like with my clients, it doesn't guarantee the success, because I can't dictate to the media. It's not advertising. That's a big difference. A lot of people misunderstand PR, and they're like, yeah, but I've paid you to do this, Carrie. You should be able to get me in, like, you've got all your contacts like that. And it's like, doesn't work like that, you know. I can't bribe them, you know, even if you I can't bribe them to feature you. It's a kind of it's a pitching process, and it's a letting go process, and a following up process. So there's no guarantee. So whatever anybody says anything like, I can guarantee I'll get you in here, nobody can guarantee that. You can put your heart and soul into it, like I do my clients, and keep repitching, but you can't actually guarantee anything. It's the same with marketing, isn't it? You can say to people, well, you could blog every day, but we can't guarantee that this is going to get X amount of result. In terms of so it's different to marketing, and the fact that you can't control it. Where would you start? I would start where I would consider where your ideal client, or where your audience actually hang out on media. So what media do they consume? So are they watching This Morning? Are they reading Red magazine? Are they reading, I don't know, Woman and Home magazine? Are they listening to Vanessa or BBC Radio 4 Woman's? What are they consuming? What media are they consuming? And you might need to ask them if you don't know them enough.
How do you find that out, Carrie?
I say to clients, you know, ask them. Or you, to be fair, I feel that, you know, I suppose for me, I do a lot of this very intuitively. I can tune into my client's audience and go, well, I can tell you that they'll be reading that, or they'll be reading that, or they'll be reading that. Yeah. But I mean, I always say, well, a lot of business owners, they don't have time to read magazines and newspapers. It's fact. So I sort of say, well, why don't you start picking like a couple of monthly magazines, but also start to pay attention to the daily and weekly newspapers, because because then you can really get a sense of how the news breaks, what happens, what different columns happen in the media. Because, like, for example, you know, I say to them, get the Daily Mail every day, and you can see how stories break. You can see, like, on a Thursday, it's all about women. I work with women. You know, there's regularly features that you could be featured in the female, it's called, although it's, you know, it's a newspaper, it's like a magazine. They have the You magazine on a Sunday, where there's a lot of women who could go into that. A lot of my clients could be pitched into that. And then you have got the Sun, which has fabulous every day. A lot of people scream, I'm not being in the Sun. But, you know, it's good for a profile raiser. You have the Times that do different features as well, particularly at the weekend. And on a Sunday, there's Stella magazine, which is a free magazine in the Telegraph, which has loads of, it's particularly right for, like, the female entrepreneur audience that I work with. So I often suggest getting that and just get a feel for it. Because first of all, like with anything, as you know, you don't just want to jump in and make a plonker of yourself, although there's still lessons with that. But ideally you want to spend a bit of time, maybe like 3 hours or something a week to start with, just reading things and absorbing content and really doing your research. Because there's no point in pitching if you haven't consumed the media, because it's one of the pet peeves of the media. They can tell that you haven't actually paid any attention. And think about it. If you suddenly, we all hate spam, and it's like spamming the media. you know, and we all like to be seen, valued and heard, don't we? And it's the same with the media. Then they're human beings, they're doing a job at the end of the day, and if they can tell that you've paid attention to what they've created, then you stand a better chance of being successful.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. So now some business owners will say, 3 hours a week reading of, you know, media and magazines and newspapers, and I presume online content as well, because if it goes into so you don't have to physically go out and buy the newspapers, you can consume them online because it's the same across.
Yeah, you can consume a lot of it. I mean, you not all of it, but quite a bit of it you can consume. I mean, I know you can consume the Daily Mail, for example, online, and the Sun. I'm not sure about the Times. I think they make you subscribe, or the Telegraph.
I think their subscription one.
Yeah.
But again, it's about just getting that feel, isn't it? It's about getting that, you know, is my audience reading this?
Yeah.
And it's about understanding who your audience is as well, isn't it?
It completely is, and you'll actually find that the more you consume it, you personally, even if you haven't asked your audience, you will start to sense that, oh, actually they do read this magazine. I can see they're doing a feature on a lady who I work with, the kind of lady. Do you know what I mean? You will go and go, oh yeah, I can see myself in this, and I can see my clients reading. Because you'll get a sense of it. I suppose I've always read magazines and consumed a lot of media, so it's normal to me, but I forget sometimes that a lot of my clients haven't. So I just say, go out and consume it and you're fine. You will get a sense and a feeling of it, because it's like with anything, if you really want to take it seriously, which obviously people do if they want to work with PR, then you have to obviously invest a bit of time and energy in getting to know the basics, the foundation of it. If you don't know how a story breaks or what it looks like to appear in the media, then you won't know whether you're being fully successful or not, because you won't understand the basics. You have to understand the basics of everything, don't you? And that's
you do.
You know, and once you've done that, then you can see the impact it can have.
Yeah. So there's also a lot of like industry magazines. So, you know, I know a lot of people, you know, I used to run a business in the baby industry. And, you know, there's obviously, you know, all the mum and baby magazines, or the parenting magazines. You know, there's very specific magazines across different industries. Is that a different type of PR to the general type of PR that you're talking about?
No, it's the same thing. I suppose for me, I always say both are really important, because, you know, I do have clients who've been in like Soul and Spirit magazine, which obviously are quite specialised. The specialised and niche or industry magazines and forms of media obviously are still important. But what I've noticed is that the time has come now for them to go more in traditional media. They did I'm not saying don't do that either. I think you need to do both, to be fair. I think you need to do the specialist on the niche industry media, but you also need to do the mainstream traditional media. There was a study by Edelman, which is the biggest PR company in the country, and they said in 2012 social media was considered more influential than traditional PR. Their study from the end of last year revealed that 61% of people now believe traditional media compared to 25% of people believed social media, which I thought was quite interesting. Wow. So there's a switch.
That's massive, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a switch. So so again, for me, that puts a case forward for PR again, really.
Yeah. Okay. So, you know, you're saying about business owners, you know, reading material, consuming material themselves, so that they understand what the media is looking for, and so that you can then have I presume, a conversation with the journalist. So how does it work, Carrie? How does, you know, me as a business owner get in front of a journalist with, you know, hello, I'm me, this is my story? How does that happen?
Well, the first thing I always say to people is that you have to understand it's not about you, it's about them. I suppose this is slightly similar to marketing, but you have to understand this is the biggest mistake that business owners make when they pitch to the media, is they kind of go, hi, I'm Carrie and I've written this great book and I'm so great and I'm so blah, blah, blah. They literally don't want to know and don't care, because it's what's in it for them. They're like, right, how can you help me? You know, why, you know, how can you help me? How can you help me look good to my editor and my producer? How can you help my audience feel better, do better? live better, become happier.
Yeah.
So you have to lead, first and foremost, you have to lead with that approach.
Okay.
And literally, the content of how can I help you. But to do that, yes, you need to consume, so you've done your general, so I'm presuming you've done your general research.
Okay.
So then you hone it down and say, like, you might say that you get Red magazine and there's or let's just say Glamour magazine have a regular, not Glamour, Grazia, they have a regular column called Womb with a View about women who, and just share a story about, motherhood.
Okay.
So let's, for example, say you've read a few copies and you're like, oh, I think I'm feeling this, I'd like to pitch to them. So you look in Grazia magazine and you see who writes it. Now, it might not be the same person who writes it each week, which is why I suggest you monitor it before you pitch.
Okay.
Then you look and see if there's an email contact. If there isn't, you go onto Twitter. 99.9% of all journalists that actually hang out on Twitter. That's their number one place. Then I'd probably say it'll be Instagram and then LinkedIn. But most of the time they're on Twitter. That's where a story breaks. That's where they spend a lot of their time. Okay. That's where it's easy to contact them. So you'd find their name, say it was Chloe Jones, and you'd go on to you'd type her name in the search bar on Twitter, and you see if you could find her. If you could find her, then she may or may not have her direct email address. Some of them do, but if she doesn't, then if you look at like tweets, the tweets that she's made, she'll often, if you scroll down, and sometimes you have to scroll a lot. There's a lot of research involved in if you're doing it yourself with PR. So you'd scroll down, and you're more than likely to see her put her email address because she's responding to somebody who's tweeted her. Yeah. If you haven't, then I suggest you look at, say, Grazia magazine itself, and you might find that they have an email format for other members of staff. Okay. If not, go back to the contents page of the magazine, and you look through like different contact information. They might have an email address there. If not, go old school and ring them up and just say, I'm trying to pitch to Chloe Jones. I wonder if you'd be able to help me with her email address. More than often they will. If not, if they give you a general email, then you send it and then you ring them up again saying, after 10 days or something, you'd say, look, I've sent this email, I haven't heard anything, could you help me? Yeah. And in the email, because you'd pitch them in the email inbox, you'd put like pitch story for, you have to be really specific because some of them get 100 emails an hour. So you'd put like pitch story, Grazia, pitch story, Womb with a View idea. And then you'd put, hi Chloe, I loved the Womb with a View last week when the woman was talking about how she had orthorexia and she was a mum. I totally understand that. One of my friends experienced that. She was too much into clean eating and she was really quite poorly as a result. It made her more anxious, and it was because she was orthorexic. We only discovered that through reading your article. We didn't really know the signs. Thanks ever so much. Okay. I wonder if you'd be interested in writing, doing a piece about for Womb with a View about why mums need to delegate more or something to avoid burnout for their kids and their family. And if so, I'd love to do this. I work with mothers who blah blah blah, or my story is this. You just put you'd put like about a short, like 2 or 3 sentences about you observing and acknowledging that you've read her column, and then you put, here's a story idea, like 1 or 2 sentences, keep it brief, and then you'd put like a little bit about establishing credibility at the end, and then you'd say, I look forward to hearing from you, and then you'd put like your website details, your social media handles, your contact number, and then you'd send it.
Wow, just as simple as that in a way. Yeah. But then if they're getting 100 emails an hour, then the chances of them actually seeing it, what? Well,
because you're putting because a lot of people make a mistake of just emailing them and just not even putting pitch story or story idea, and then a lot of people do it generally because you're being really specific.
Yeah. Okay.
You are, you're putting putting like story idea, Womb with a View, and it's going to the exact lady. Obviously, this is an ideal that writes, that does this column. It could be 2 or 3 of them as well. So if there's This is why you need to track it a few times. Don't just read the magazine once. Then I would sort of look at it 2 or 3 copies, and you will see who writes it regularly. It could be Chloe, it might be Chloe and somebody else, or it could be 3 people, because what you'll find with journalists is that there's some journalists who work on the books all the time, and there's some who they have a group of freelancers who feed story ideas into the main team or the main editor. So it's not always somebody who's listed in the magazine who writes the article that's published. It could be like one of their freelancers. But I mean, you're more likely to get a response when you're being really specific like that. I can't guarantee a response, but but then that's when you're playing the tag game. That's the other side to PR. So that's where you need to follow up saying, hi, after 10 days, hi Chloe, what do you think about this? And then if you don't get an acknowledgement, you just work on something else, and then you repicture. So it's like I always say, like, I did a blog post about PR's not just for Christmas, it's for life. Well, it's true. PR is a constant pitch. So it's a pitch fest. So you don't hear, you sort of follow up. Maybe I would say 2 times maximum. You don't want to pester them. Yeah. And then you just repitch them, because they'll remember you. If they think it's a good pitch, but it's not quite suitable, I would say like 85% of the time, they literally don't have time for you to go back and sort of say, hi, Carrie, it wasn't quite the right pitch, but thanks. You're on my list. You're in my bank. I did a pitch. I helped one of my members in my Heavenly PR Club. I helped her put together a pitch it's for the Daily Mail. And I sort of put it together, and I said, right, we'll put it together. Well, she actually got an acknowledgement, and she was a bit disappointed. And I was like, are you kidding me, Fiona? She got an acknowledgement, and the lady said, actually, I didn't write the article, which we both thought was a bit strange. And she said, but, I do write about this subject. So when I write about this subject again, I'll bear you in mind, which for me was a big high five moment, because she got an acknowledgement, and we went through this process, and the lady actually got back to her, and I just thought, she was like, oh, a bit disappointed. I was like, no, don't be disappointed. You're on a list now. That's good. That's kind of, because the other thing is, we haven't really talked about, is that what I do recommend, in an ideal world, is for you to have built a relationship with the journalist before you pitch. Yeah. Because again, this goes back to the like, know and trust factor. Yeah. If they've seen that you've made even a little bit of an effort with them on Twitter, it mostly is. I mean, I'm not saying Instagram isn't valuable, or LinkedIn. I would say I'd still prioritise Twitter, to be honest. Okay.
For the journalist communication.
Yeah, definitely. So you find them, you follow them, you retweet them, you like their posts, you comment on their posts. I mean, if you could do it like 5 or 10 times before you pitch them, ideally. I mean, if it's a bit long, the best results I've had is when I've been building that relationship up for like a few weeks before I've tried to pitch them. Not everybody can do that, and stories break that you can weigh in on before that. So, but I mean, you need to at least have made some effort, because they'll go back and go, oh, does Carrie follow me? Has she paid an interest? Because you have to understand you're being put against other people who are pitching, and they're kind of like, well, it's a really good idea, Carrie, but Tracey-Jane's been making effort with me for weeks. There's not much in it, really. They're both, both got great ideas. Well, I'm going to go with Tracey because I like, know and trust her better. Carrie seems nice, but don't really know her. So can I trust the source? Will it take me more effort? Whereas I really feel like Tracey's reached out a few more times, because that's how it works as well,
Yeah. Well, and I presume this is the same for local media as well, because a lot of businesses want to just target their local media, that because their customers are really, really local to them. So it's the same process?
It is the same process, and actually it's much easier to get on your local media than it is to get into the national press. And because, for example, I often say, start off with your getting sleep on my eyes. That's good. I often say, like, start with your local BBC radio. Just, again, I would, before I bring them up, I would listen to it a few times. So you might find that your audience is more suited to the breakfast show, or maybe it's the drive time show, or maybe it's the afternoon show. Don't just ring randomly and go, hi, I'm Carrie, and I want to talk to your listeners about this. Do a bit of research, pay them a bit of courtesy. It's not hard, you can listen to the radio while you're doing something else. Just do that, and then I would ring up, and for a particular show, let's say it was like, I don't know, where I live, there's a chap called Malcolm Boys. He does this program. I think it's in the morning, and say you discovered that your show was your story and you'd be more relevant to his show, then you'd listen to it a couple of times, then you'd ring up. You can easily find out who the BBC, the BBC radio in your area, find out who it is, ring up the switchboard and say, hi, can I speak to the research team on the Malcolm Boys show? Or you could even say the producer, because they might not have a research team. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It kind of depends. And then you just pitched and said, I wondered if you'd be interested in if I came on to talk about this for your listeners. And it, pick something it's usually like thinking about how you could weigh in on what's happening now or what's coming up, so for example, it could be that you'd like to help mums avoid burnout who run their own business, and say Malcolm talks to a lot of mums on the show. Really, you've got to sort of tailor the pitch to that.
So gone are the days then of writing a press release and sending it out. I think, or is that something that you do as well as?
You do that, but less so now, because now with social media, and you can get access to the media much more. It's kind of less of a mystery. Whereas 10 years ago, they were all in offices hidden, under the hatches. You could not get close. That's why you had to meet them or send them a long press release. Now, not only has their workload gone up, it's also we can get access to them much faster, much easier. We couldn't before. So they have got less time to consume long press releases. I'm not saying they're not important.
Again, it's just understanding what it is, because there'll be some business owners that have been sending press releases. That's what they've been doing because that's what they were told to do. And now it's like understanding the current thinking and picking out, the tips for business owners now, isn't it? Yeah,
it is. And for more local things, press releases, I would say, are more relevant. Okay. But I wouldn't purely rely on a press release. I would, if, like I said, a few moments ago, if you can tailor your pitch, then they might say, have you got a press release on that? I would recommend to my clients, research the radio or the local TV show or the local paper, see what's going on, then pitch them. Yeah. And the journalist might say, I'd like a bit more info. That's a better result than going bombarding them and going, my God, Carrie sent me a really long email, I'm just deleting that, it's way too much. Does she think I'm twiddling my thumbs waiting for a story? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You've got to make it relevant to the point, and then they'll ask for more information. Then that's a much better way of doing it in my mind.
It makes total sense, Carrie. It makes total sense. So we're coming to the end of our time together. I could talk to you all day, and it's brilliant, and just learn and understand. And I know people that we're watching this, will get loads out of it, Carrie. So thank you so much.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
What is your top tip then for business owners? You've given us absolutely loads, but if business owners can only do or only feel that they can do sort of one thing a week, what would it be?
Well, I'm just thinking about this because you were saying that, I was saying that a lot of them want to get into their local media. I would contact their local media, pitch to the local media on a weekend, so the local radio or local TV, because often they have difficulty filling up the airtime on the radio and on the TV more so at the weekend, because everybody wants to be in the week, and they have bigger stories breaking in the week. So at the weekend, I'd look to pitch them for a weekend radio interview or radio discussion or TV, a human interest story for the weekend for the local TV, because it's easier to get started.
Right. Okay.
For the weekend, that's why that's a top tip.
So you would pitch them in the week to then go on at the weekend. Is that right?
Yeah, for one of the weekends. Usually the lead time to get into TV is, unless it's something that's breaking. I mean, that's another story for another chat. Unless the story is really breaking and you are an expert and you can weigh in on it, something really literally breaking, then you would just ring them up immediately. That's a whole other story. That's called newsjacking. But I would, let's just say for Mother's Day, that's a few weeks. Because it typically takes 4 to 6 weeks. They plan ahead with TV. It's not to say they don't have spaces in for things breaking, but So you just think, I would just sort of think, oh, well, there's, coming up to Easter, let's kind of pitch them for the weekend about a nice Easter story. That's what I would do. And it's the same for the radio. It's probably shorter turnaround times, but they still do both plan ahead. So, it's very rare, unless you've got a very solid relationship and you've been on before, that you can kind of pitch them and say, I want to go in this weekend. But and they know you. But the other caveat for that is that I would, whenever you're speaking to them, so when you start speaking to them, and obviously if you're prepared to do that as well, just say you'll be a last minute guest. Okay. That's the other tip. That's a final tip, because because often people cancel at the last minute and then they're stuck and they're like scrambling around. Like, I'm sure you happens to you as well with me. Yes. It's just like, I know I've got it booked, the time in my diary, nobody's turning up. Right, who can somebody step in? And if you can say I'll be a last minute guest. Or I might be a last minute guest, text me or email me, then that's a good tip as well, because they love that. Because at the end of the day, if you're showing that you can help them, then again, it's a win-win.
Brilliant. So, Carrie, thank you so much. How can people get in contact with you if they want to know more about you or use you as their PR expert?
They can find me at returnonconnection.com, or we can put my Facebook links. I think it's
do that.
facebook.com/the blondepreneur, and they can find me on Twitter at blondepreneur. It's with an E.
Blonde as in the French spelling of blonde.
The French spelling of blonde, yeah, exactly. And you'll find me on Twitter. I'd spend a lot of time on Twitter.
Okay, well, that's brilliant. So I'm Tracey-Jane Hughes from managethosethings.com, and I run something called the Business Cheerleading Club, where Carrie has very kindly offered to come and do a workshop for us later in the year. So we'll be diving a little bit more deeply into some of these PR things, won't we, Carrie, later in the year. So that was just going to be for Business Cheerleading Club members. So you need to jump into the club to get on with that. And if you've got any questions at all, then you can use the thread below this, where we put it on Facebook, for continuing that conversation with myself and Carrie. So thank you so much, Carrie.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I'm so pleased we've managed to get this recorded, and people will be able to learn so much from this. It's been absolutely brilliant. So thank you very much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.